Hi there, Jeffrey Rhoades from Experimental Homesteader, Exotic Gardening, and Richcherson.com. As an update first, Sheri does have a kidney stone. We spent a little over 4 hours at the emergency room yesterday to get the diagnosis. Now we're just waiting for it to pass. But they didn't seem to be too concerned with it, with the possibility of it not passing. Basically, they just said, if it hadn't passed within 2 weeks, to consult a urologist. But it didn't seem like it was a huge issue of that they thought it was too big of a stone to pass or anything like that. So it should be okay. But now it's time for me to get on a soapbox.
Soapbox alert!
So, earlier today I saw a newsfeed article talking about a Veterans Affairs official removing a picture from his wall because the picture depicted a Civil War Confederate general. And this, stirred up an issue for me again. As a historian, specifically as a Civil War historian, there are issues that I have with this whole issue of trying to rewrite history and remove the Civil War.
I have issues and I'm not even into history.
Yeah, part of it stems from Sheri. She doesn't like history. Okay, she never really has liked history. She doesn't understand the importance of it sometimes. But she understands this issue of trying to rewrite history and remove some of this information from the history books is a bad idea.
It's a really bad idea. Don't get me on my soapbox.
So, it's important to remember our past and learn from it.
It doesn't mean we gotta live it.
No, we don't have to live it. We need to, remember the past and remember some of the lessons learned and, move past it. The hatred, the animosity, this is part of the problem. There's a lot of hurt feelings at this point over what happened in the past. And it's being carried to an extreme. And this is a problem. Okay? Yes, there were some atrocities. Yes, there was, some things that were bad at the time. And we had a war to try to settle the issues. Okay? My personal feelings about Nathan Bedford Forrest, the particular general that was depicted in the picture that was taken down, he was an amazing cavalry general. Okay? He did some wonderful, speaking militarily, he did some wonderful things during the war. He was phenomenal on the battlefield. Now, the issue that arose, the Fort Pillow massacre, yeah, that was bad. But it was not entirely Forrest in charge there. Okay, let me rephrase that. Forrest was in charge of the troops, okay, the Confederate troops. But he did not control every aspect of the battlefield. Some of the atrocities that occurred were not under his direct orders, okay? And this is what kind of happens. This is the kind of thing that can happen on a battlefield. He did not condone what happened, but there wasn't much that he could do about it after the fact. And the issue of him being the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Yes, he organized and created the Klan, okay, as a gathering of former soldiers of the Confederacy. I guess kind of like what he was trying to organize was something along like what we have in the way of the American Legion. It was a place for former soldiers to get together and reminisce. His intention was not what the Klan became, which is why when it started turning the way it went, he left the group. He did not stay with the Klan once it became an organization of hate. He was just trying to organize something, to relive the past, to be able to get together and tell stories, hang out with cohorts, socialize, a social group. So, he's been made a monster. While yes, he did some things that weren't right, weren't good. If you look past some of that and look at his military career, he can be seen as, a hero of the Confederacy for his military efforts. But some people, all they want to look at is the things he did wrong. Yeah, he was a slave trader. He may not have been the, nicest person. He may not have been, incredibly nice to the slaves. But for the age, for the time period, it was more or less normal behavior. Okay? Now, looking at it from our perspective now, it's hard to accept. But at the time, what he was doing wasn't necessarily out of the norm. And people need to understand and realize that. You can't judge it from our perspective of today necessarily. You have to put it in its context. What was happening right then and there? What was the norm of the day? And this is what people tend to forget, and they get all bent out of shape. So this is where I want to, put things in perspective, and this is part of the problem with some of the history today. Sometimes it's not presented to students as, think about it, put yourself in that time and what would have been normal for people to do. The Confederates, there was a lot of animosity towards blacks, okay? And especially black soldiers. The idea for some Confederates of a black soldier, to them, a slave taking up arms against them, was horrific. And they were going to overreact and be overly aggressive. Was it right for them to do it the way they did? No. But it happened. And there were other atrocities. both sides. Um, you know, depending on the location, you know, what was happening at the time, you know, there were things that happened that just, you know, got out of hand. We have to keep that in perspective. Um, but some of this that's going on today, you know, trying to take down monuments, you know, tear down the statues. Pretty soon we're going to be renaming cities. One of them I was just thinking about. I keep seeing a Virginia town called Leesburg. Well, if we're going to rewrite history, then we're going to have to rewrite the name of the town because, well, we can't have a town named after General Robert E. Lee,
Oh,
right?
shame on that town. Shame,
Yeah.
shame, shame.
So
shame.
if we're going to do this, I mean, that's the next step. And, you know, I think that's going too far. Way too far.
I think people need to grow up.
Yeah, that's part of it. They need to grow up. They need to, you know, get over themselves. They need to realize that, you know, some of these statues are just, they're ways of getting people to respond. You see a statue, you get interested in the statue as to what it is or, you know, why it's there. You do some research, you find out, you know, it sparks some interest for people. You know, it's not, you know, necessarily that you're glorifying and honoring someone as much as you're trying to create, you know, create an interest in the history. You know, get people thinking about it. You know, and times change, but we need to, you know, stay focused on the, you know, this is history. This is something that occurred in our country. You know, we need to remember it. You know, and one way is by having statues of some of these people, you know, and remembering who they are, where they came from, what they did, not necessarily, you know, what we feel about what they did. You know, so I think that's going to do it for me, though. I think I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Did you have anything else to contribute?
No, I think it was a very good soapbox.
Okay.
Do y'all want to see more soapboxes? Leave it in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, please subscribe. Give us thumbs up, thumbs down, comments below. Let me know how you feel about the situation and the issue. If you want to hear more about the Civil War from me, let me know. Put it in the comments. I don't necessarily see them, but Sheri will pass them along to me. If there's something specific to the Civil War that you want to know about, let me know. And I'll see if I can't answer any questions. And we will see you again tomorrow, and have a great evening.